here we are again, another episode of Under Pressure. I'm your host, Carmine Gellinella. So excited to be joined by Jeff Bell. Florida Fishing Mate is your company. I have so many questions I want to ask you, but first, give us a little bit of your background.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
A little bit of my background. I don't know. That's a whole can of worms right there.
There you go. You can use those worms for bait.
Yeah. Born in New York City. Did the classic move to Boca Raton when I was 10 years old. Was always into fishing. I used to have my mother take me back in the day. I think they just retired the boat, but there was a boat called the Helen S.
Okay.
And it was like a party boat where they would take you like 15 or 20 people fishing for 4 hours. And I went once and I was obsessed with it. And I used to have her take me every weekend, 10, 11 years old, and drop me off. And back then, I think it was like $15 to go fishing all day. And
Not bad.
Back then, you would go out and catch 100 pounds of kingfish in 2 hours. The fishing, you couldn't even reel anymore.
Your arm must have been exhausted.
It was just a really the fishery was amazing back then. And nowadays, there's a lot more pressure. But getting back to a little bit about me, ended up growing up in Boca. Ended up becoming a rave DJ in the early '90s. Which was is a whole story right there. I could talk about that for 2 hours.
We'll get to that now that I know that.
I didn't know that I was in a special time, in a special moment in time. I say you always don't realize it's a special moment in time until you look back. But I ended up DJing back then on vinyl records. Ended up going in the whole nightclub scene, going to the Edge back in the day for those old schoolers that know what that is. I ended up moving to South Beach, and from South Beach had the beginning of a good DJ career, and then ended up leaving South Beach to do like the dream gig in Hartford, Connecticut for 8 years. So for 8 years, I DJ'd 2 different clubs, thousands of people, radio show. That whole dream came true. A lot of partying, a lot of good times. From there, ended up coming to an end. Ended up moving back to South Beach after that whole thing had ended, just looking for something new.
Got it. Did it end on your terms, or is it something that you just too much partying could get
too much
to you
partying,
after a while?
lot of partying. You can imagine. You guys can use your imagination.
Yeah,
a lot of partying. The clubs kind of took it peaked where we had like thousands of people in the clubs, and then actually the state attorney shut it down one day. It was actually live on CNN. It was the whole thing, and it kind of got ugly and dirty, and it just kind of ended. I did a mic drop and walked away. So that was I think in life you always have a few major crossroads. And that was the first crossroad for me. Okay. So I ended up moving back to South Beach after being this quote unquote, famous DJ. And I remember I was walking up and down Lincoln Road looking for a busboy job.
Damn.
So this is a humbling experience, but I remember that. And those kind of things build character.
It does. And I mean, the name of the show is Under Pressure. Right there. There's your moment of being under pressure.
And then I ended up having a friend who was in the mortgage business. This is when that mortgage stuff was crazy before the crash in 2009 or whatever. So I ended up I'd never been in sales before. And I ended up going to a sales room for selling mortgages, like a boiler room type thing, and got into that and ended up doing pretty good with that. Ended up opening up my own mortgage brokerage business. And that was going great until the crash. And they said, okay, thanks for doing mortgages. Go find something else to do. So there's another crossroads. I end up in another business. I'll leave it at the IT business and the internet type business. And for the first time in my life, I made a lot of money.
Oh, no, that's good. You can't complain about that.
American dream.
I'm sure you were making some good money DJing, but when you're partying like that, all of a sudden you're not retaining a lot of that money.
Right, exactly. So and that was fun in a different sense. This was more like getting a little older. So I end up doing very well in that IT business, end up on Brickell with the high rise and the Mercedes and all that stuff. And it was great to achieve that. But, I can't say I was truly happy.
Yeah.
I also, to be completely honest and vulnerable here, and I don't mind being vulnerable, I was alcoholic. The partying from the nightclub days never ended, and ended up having that classic story of losing everything through alcoholism. Yeah, and kind of hit a bottom, which in retrospect was the biggest gift that ever happened to me, and was at I would say probably my third crossroads. I had been in crazy businesses, a life of chaos for for many years. DJing was fun. Don't get me wrong, but it was chaos, chaos parties, chaos girls, all that stuff.
It's not sustainable.
Not sustainable.
You know, you end up in the grave if you keep going that route.
Exactly. And I was in my 20s, so it was a great, it was glorious. I don't look back and regret that.
I was going to say, I guarantee you don't regret it. But
I can't tell the X-rated version here, but I had some very.
You can say whatever you want. You can say fuck. You can say shit. You can talk about the most absurd stories, and I'm here for it. So just so you know, the filter is off.
Okay. So ended up pretty much classic alcoholic story. Lost everything. So slowly over time. It wasn't sudden. And I'm kind of just was at that bottom place, and I had to make a decision. First, I had to get sober, and I have 6 years sobriety now.
Congratulations!
And I'm extremely proud of that, and it's been an amazing journey in sobriety. But at that point, I really had nothing. I'd lost everything, and I had to sell my boat. I had to sell, it's a classic story, and I had my fishing rods left. I kept those. I didn't sell those. And I always loved fishing. And I'm like, you know what? You've been in an office for many years. You've been doing this IT stuff. You've been doing the mortgage thing. I've never really worked like man work. I'm not afraid of that, but I've never done that. It's always been like I don't know. It's not what I was doing.
It just never happened.
Never happened.
It wasn't like you were against it.
Right.
Your path just never led you there yet.
And it wasn't what I was kind of taught to do by society's norms. It was make money. Miami, blah, blah, blah. And I did all that already. So I'm like, you know what? I've always had ideas and tried to make them happen. I've never really worked for anybody. The DJ thing was an idea, a dream, and I went after it. Okay? And I had a level of success. I might not have been an A+ Tiesto super famous DJ, but I was a. You
were making a living. You went out to Connecticut to pursue that dream, and because you had that opportunity. I mean, that's big.
And I was a B+ league. I produced 8 records. I had one number, and I had success. So it all depends on how you gauge, what success is.
Yeah.
But I had a dream. I went after it, and I had a level of success. The mortgage company, the mortgage business, I pursued it. I ended up opening my own company. Because it got shut down, it wasn't a failure. It was a success. I put the work in, I had a success. The IT thing was the big success. So having a dream and going after it for me makes me feel alive. Figuring it out, I love that. I'm going to figure this out. Going into business and figuring it out is is the most fun thing in the world for me. I'm a huge fan of Les Brown, who's a motivational speaker. If anybody wants to YouTube Les Brown, he's amazing. And he said that people let their fear of failure override their desire to succeed. I will never forget that.
I mean, that's beautiful.
I love failing. I mean it. I have no problem with failing. I will fail my way to success. That's the only way to do it. The people that are terrified of failure, they're going to end up sitting on their deathbed as they're older.
With regret.
With regret that they never tried.
Yeah.
So I was like, at this point of third crossroads in my life, I don't want to be in an office anymore. I want to try something different. Let me take my fishing rods. And I know how to fish, but not like, I'm not an expert. And plus the fishing community is very third generation, old school guys. I'm like, let me put an ad on Craigslist. I'll take you fishing on your boat. And I'll just see. I used to use Craigslist back then it was different. As a gauge to see if you had some interest in a business or not.
That's smart.
So I got a call from a guy. Hey, I saw your ad on Craigslist. I'd love to. I have a 32 World Cat down in Key Largo. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I was charging like $300, like no money. And it was just like trying to see if this idea would work. And I take all my gear and I had all the rods and reels. And my concept was I would show up to your boat with everything you need to go fishing. All you need is food, drinks, and ice. And no one had really done that. There had been like fishing guides, but not someone that came with everything. I would come with the bait, I'd come with the rods, the tackle. So I go out with this guy and I have to pretend like I know what I'm doing. Even though I really
You could probably bullshit very well. From your partying days and for what you went through, I know you could bullshit.
Now, my intentions were good. I wanted to do great, right? I really want to provide a good service, but I really don't have the knowledge that I should have yet. And we go out all day and we caught nothing.
Fuck.
No, but it's okay, And I felt bad, but I was like, you know what? This is like a challenge. This is awesome. And what I did differently here is in this fishing concept, in this business, is I was always in sales and marketing, and there's an element of sleaze to that.
Yeah.
I was never like dishonest or lying, but there's just like
Sales
sales, you're
is
manipulating people.
100%.
So that mentality of manipulation is different from what this was.
You're selling them a dream in a way.
Right. So I was like, you know what? Let me work really hard and do the right thing through this whole process. Let me try to make the right friends, the right alliances, be humble, be teachable. And I just started and the market was a little different back then. I was getting a lot of calls. And what I decided to do is I'll travel from Jupiter to Marathon, which is a big territory. And I would just go and learn and got a little better and a little better. And then I had people that would reach out to me and give me some pointers, and I would listen. And I had people that some people thought I was an idiot. Some people thought it was awesome what I was trying to do. Then I started the Instagram thing, which back then was a lot different than now. It was really helpful back then. And slowly over time, I learned how to fish, Jupiter. I learned how to fish Marathon. I learned how to fish Miami. And over time, so I become knowledgeable. I'm not an expert. Like the guy that's been in Marathon his whole life knows the area better than me, but I know it.
Yeah.
And I've learned that through just years and years of being teachable, of learning. And then what's amazing for me and what I'm really grateful for is I was surrounded by a bunch of people that wanted to help me, which is unusual, teach me. Older guys, I had this one guy, Eddie, that is one of my mentors I really appreciate, Cerucho, calls me up. He's like, hey, kid, listen. And this guy's known to be a salty, kind of a tough guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, kid, he goes, you work really hard. He goes, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm going to teach you. I'll never forget that. I was like, wow, this is like an old school guy that's well known, that's reaching out to me, validating how hard I'm working.
Because you mentioned when you were first telling the story that a lot of people third generation, it's been passed down. You didn't have someone to pass that down, and now you have this guy who's looking to mentor you.
Right, and then also, unfortunately, there's a lot of there's groups in every industry. There's groups. There's the nice people, the jerks, all that stuff. There's a real nasty bunch of guys in the fishing industry. Unfortunately, a bunch of old, salty, mean people that want you to fail, people that are not good people. And I pride myself in being the opposite of that. And I prided myself in surrounding myself with the good people. And what I've learned over time is that the bad people end up disappearing. And the same thing happened with DJing. The bad people end up disappearing or hurting themselves. The good people help each other through the tough times. And
which is nice to see.
Yeah. And the last couple of years have been tough times with the economy, and it's definitely shown in the industry. And it's really at that, since that happened, we've all banded together and helped each other through this, which is cool. Like I normally don't give referrals. I'll give referrals to a friend that needs if I'm overbooked, I give him the gig. And for some reason, not for some reason, I know why, it always ends up coming back. I'll have fishermen don't give out their spots. It's like you don't do that.
Yeah.
I'll once in a while I'll say, hey, listen, here's a good yellowtail spot to a guy. And he goes, why are you doing this to me? Because it'll
come back.
And you know what? It does.
Yeah.
It goes against the modern day greed. It always comes back.
I mean, you don't want to one day find yourself being one of those salty assholes, I mean, you don't. You want to keep who you are. And that's, I didn't want to mention your secret spots, but it's got to be tough because you're still at the mercy of the fish.
I love that.
It's not like you're teaching someone how to paint a house or carpentry or construction. You can teach somebody that. It's going to be pretty much the same all the time. You're at liberty of if the fish are going to bite or not, if they're there.
I love what you just said. I can't wait to respond to this. So I'm emotionally invested in every charter. That's just who I am. That's my personality. That's my thinking. I want the person to have an awesome day. What that day is usually consists of catching a lot of fish, but I have some guys that want to catch a shark. If they want to catch a shark and that's their dream, we'll go catch a shark. But I used to put a tremendous amount of pressure on myself, and I still do, because I want to not like have a total slay day every day.
Yeah.
I want the customer to be really happy. I want at this point, at this stage of my career, I want that 8-year-old to get that fish and see that look on his face and know that he'll never forget that. But what I've learned is every fisherman has bad days. If I prepare the gear correctly, if I do everything I can do physically, and that means like an example is if we're drifting for an hour and a half and it's not working, I could sit there and say, okay, let's keep doing it. You know, and I could bullshit, let's put some time in it. Or I could pull everything up, which is harder, and go do something, go yellowtail, or pull something up and go try something else. So what I'll do is I'll keep doing whatever I have to do. If we have to do 4 different fishing strategies in the same day, I'll do that. Even though it's exhausting, I'll do it because at the end of the day, I want to know that I did everything I could do to get fish on the boat. I've been so upset sometimes. I've had, listen, we all get skunked once in a while. I had a couple of days where like the customer's talking me down. He's like, Jeff, listen, you did everything you could do. It's okay. I'm like, no, because I do.
It's good to put that kind of pressure on you. I mean, I started a podcast and I wanted to talk to people who have experienced pressure. A lot of that is put on themselves because every single person that I've had the privilege of talking to so far has a level of success. And as you said earlier, with you can't be afraid to fail.
Right.
And in your case, you still don't want to fail, even if something is out of your control. And I love that. And the fact that a customer was talking you down, it's like, hey, man, it's like, we'll get him next time.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing. That just shows you how they view you and what you're trying to accomplish. So that's great.
I think that, I mean, some people are born with that and some people are just lazy. Now, people today want to be comfortable. That's the younger generation. And I feel so terrible for the younger generation. They're dealing with so many different things, but they want to be comfortable. They want to sit home and drink Gatorade and play games and not have their muscles burn and not have this hurt. And what I've learned through fishing, and also I've been plagued with health issues through my fishing career. I had a colon resection that was life-threatening, that they had to take out 7 centimeters of my colon, and there was this. So that was a major surgery. I had major spinal fusion surgery a year ago, which I would not let take me out of the fishing industry. I don't care what happens. So I'm recovered from that. I've had various health issues, and it's okay. I keep going. For the younger kids, I wake up in the morning. If I have a marathon trip, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. No one's not tired at 4:30 in the morning. I don't care what time you went to bed.
I used to wake up every day for my morning show. Yes, you never get used to it.
Right.
Something you don't.
So you're tired at 4:30. I load up my van. I'm not complaining. I'm telling you what I do. I load up my van with all the gear, which is hundreds of pounds worth of gear. I drive the van to Marathon. Let's not minimize that. That's a 2-hour drive at night, right? I get to the person's house, put on the happy face, right? Yeah. Nice to meet you. And usually I am happy. And then I have to take all the gear to the back of the house, which is not light, and put it on the boat, then get the boat organized, and then take them offshore. Most important part of my job is to make sure I get along with everybody.
Yeah.
You cannot be 20 miles offshore and getting in a fight with somebody, right? Yeah. Always stay away.
International rules too, international laws.
Always stay away from politics. Always stay away from religion. And sometimes I get that 60-year-old guy. It's one guy, and all day he's just talking to me all day about something I don't agree with.
Yeah.
And I just have to sit there. And,
it's tough. It's a smile and All right, why don't we go over here right now?
Or another funny thing, fishing guys will appreciate this. I always talk to the person on the phone. They think they're interviewing me. I'm interviewing them. I know a lot of red flags over the years, so we know what to look for with personalities. And usually that guy is amazing, right? And then when I get to the boat, it's always his unannounced friend, Mike.
Of course.
Hey,
it's always a Mike.
I'm Mike.
Mike.
And he's questioning me, trying to do a hostile takeover on the charter. It's always a disaster.
Because Mike thinks he's an expert. He thinks he's a professional fisherman.
Exactly. I call it a hostile takeover. So anyway, back to, so I get to the boat. I put everything on the boat. I like to bust my ass. I like to, sometimes I'll be out in 4 or 5 foot seas. I have 5 lines out. I'm 50 years old. It's like doing calisthenics. Yeah. This line snaps. You have to sit down and retie this. And when you retie that, this line snaps. You have to retie. You can go fucking crazy. I love it. At that moment, it's like Rocky Balboa. It's like a challenge. Let's go.
You're in the trenches.
Right. Things are burning. This is cramping. You don't want to let the customer know that this hurts. And part of me likes that. It's like that suffering is like, it makes me feel like a fucking man.
Yeah.
Right? And then and if we have a great day, come back. After I come back, let's say we catch 20 dolphin, clean all those fish, right? Clean all those fish, which takes a long time. Load everything back in the van. And then if I have 2 days in Marathon, I just sleep in Marathon and do it the next day. That's why I built the van. Or I drive home, right? When I get in that van, I don't care how much I suffered out there, what the fuck happened, okay? When I get in that van, I can't explain to you the feeling of accomplishment. that I wish every young kid experiences. And it came through burning and suffering and pain. And it's suffering is a part of being human. It's a good thing. So
when a bone breaks, you know what happens? It grows back stronger.
Right.
And I like that because I've said this on the show before. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm old enough to preach to people, but at the same time, it's like kids nowadays, they're afraid of hard work. Like you said, everything needs to be instant gratification. We watch something that's 5 seconds long, you know, the TikTok culture, the Instagram culture. Nobody wants to put in the work. Nobody wants to fail. I mean, nobody wants to fail at the end of the day, but that just builds who you are.
Right.
Every successful person has failed at something. They've heard a lot more no's than yeses. A lot more doors have slammed than opened.
So it's great to be wrong, and it's great to make mistakes. It's wonderful. Now, the difference between two different kinds of people, okay, when I make a mistake, I'd never get upset about it, okay? But what I want to do is I want to learn everything about that mistake and try not to make it again.
Yeah.
But the other kind of person is so insecure or whatever issues they have, they don't want to admit that they made a mistake.
When they're wrong.
If you can't admit you're wrong, then you can never learn from your mistakes, so you stay stupid. That's just the way it goes. I had a few friends that approached me 4 months ago. They had an idea to start a live bait boat. They're like, Jeff, listen, you're older. We know how hard you work. And these were like some of the top live bait guys in that area. They go out at night and they catch all these live bait.
Okay, so they're going out to fish for the bait.
Yeah, commercial guys fishing for live bait. And they're like, listen, we have an idea, but it could be good for everybody. We're going to buy a pontoon and we'll convert it into like this live bait boat barge. And you can sit there all day and we'll set it up where you can have a coffee maker and you can just scoop bait. And you know, I have a business mind and a business background. And I knew like, okay, this could work. You know, I always look at things upside, downside. So, you know, downside is I put in 10 grand, maybe I lose 5 grand after I sell them if it doesn't work. Upside is I make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So that made sense. Then I look at the variables. The variables in this one were personalities. So I knew that the only real thing here that could fail is if I never like working with partners. It's hard to solve problems when you have obstructions.
Yeah.
And I knew that could be an issue. So the second that boat hit the water, after we built this boat, I set up an Instagram page. We had 3,000 followers. Everybody's excited. We launched the boat. As soon as the boat hit the water, the personalities on the partners changed immediately, which was a nightmare. So I tried to do the best I could, made some mistakes.
They mic'd it up, basically.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I saw about a month in, I saw no path for success, right? I shut it down. And I went onto my Instagram page. You can scroll down there, and I put an explanation of what happened, and I put across the whole page, I failed. So what? It's okay. I failed. I learned a bunch of lessons. I got wiser. I got smarter. Lost a few grand.
Yeah, the sun comes up, you know. Yeah. We all go to sleep. We wake up again, and you're good to go. And that just shows you, though, that not being afraid to fail has made you who you are. I mean, it's quite simple.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to live bait and non-live bait, which one do you prefer using?
Live bait all day.
Live bait all day. Yeah. It's without a doubt the best.
For those real fishermen, for the real technical fishermen out there, if you're mutton fishing with the long leader, like a 50-foot leader, and I think ballyhoo plugs, large horseshoe ballyhoo plugs, do better than pilchards on the bottom.
Okay.
But generally, as an overall live bait, pilchards and goggle eyes live are great. Goggle eyes on the drift are great. And it's also great when the fishing's good that day. I found a lot of days you'll go out and the fishing's unbelievable. And the next day, it's off. You know, I've also found that it always tends to be better when it's 2 to 3 to 4 foot seas, rougher seas than super, super calm seas.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, and another thing about fishing over the years, it's the little things, man. The little things, and you would never think the little things make the biggest difference. You know, going from a 5-0 hook to a 3-0 hook for tunas, going from 50-pound leader to 30-pound leader, it makes those little things can make a night and day difference in fishing. So I try to remain teachable, you know, and I always try. I always play dumb a little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing. Like I'll walk into the tackle shop and I'll be like, oh, and I'll play super dumb. And I have people just start telling me stuff because they like to talk. And I start absorbing all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Then you'll know how competent they are. You're like, oh yeah, how do you do that? And then you're probably like, this fucking idiot.
Right. Like I have a good friend of mine, Albert, that he's learned a lot more about mahi fishing, and I can catch mahi all day, but he's got this thing down, And I called him up and I asked him humbly, I'm like, listen, I said, I don't know how the fuck you're doing this, but he just let me teach you, and I just shut up and listen, and that definitely helps. Another thing with the South Florida fishery, we are so lucky here. You can fish. I can go out today and fish 10 different ways, if not more, probably more. You can go yellowtail fishing. You can go sword fishing. You can drift for pelagics. You can troll. It's just amazing the fishery we have here. And the Gulf Stream comes so close to the U.S. here. That's like the highway for a lot of the pelagics. The Gulf Stream, I think the closest, like right off Lake Worth, is like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 miles. And to get to
it's like a fish highway.
It's a fish highway, and that's if you look at the Gulf Stream, that same highway off North Carolina is like 40 or 60 miles, or I think further out. So we're so lucky to have it this close,
So if I was going to call you up and be like, hey, Jeff, I want to go for this fish, this, that, and the other thing. Like, what's the price? Like, what are the options that I have? Pretty much I can go from mahi to sharks.
Yeah, so what I'll usually do is first I'll talk to the person. I ask them, what do they have any specific goals in mind? A lot of people. So I know what I am and I know what I'm not. I'm not the hardcore 28-year-old working the back of a sport fish with the captain screaming at the top with the headset. That's not me. I'm a fishing guide that specializes. I can do all kinds of fishing. We specialize in family. So if you are like a family that just bought a 32 contender, which I would prefer over a 22 Aquasport. No, I'm kidding. If you're a family that just bought a boat and you have no idea what you're doing, that's my favorite phone call. And I usually, more times than not, they'll just want to go out and catch what's biting and follow my lead. Some people are specific, I had some classic older Cuban guys last week that wanted to catch mutton snappers. For those who know, there's a certain kind of personality with these older Cuban guys. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of serious and very competitive.
If you know, 100%.
So I went down mentally prepared to deal with it. And we had a great day. We caught a mutton, a 30-inch mutton. And I'm like...
and that's a big mutton?
That's a big one.
Okay.
Yeah. Average size is 18, 19 inches. And this is a real big one. This is a trophy one. And he wasn't excited. And I'm like, oh, isn't that great? And he's like, nothing. I was reeling up the fish and talking about catching the next fish. I'm like, are you reeling in a fish right now? And
live in the moment, my man. Live in the moment.
So, you can't always make customers happy. But generally, I'll ask the people if they have any goals first. Some people are like, oh, we want to, have a customer on Sunday. He wants to go to the hump, which is a really cool feature. The hump there's a few of them, but there's one off Marathon. It's 23 miles off Marathon. And it's actually like it's like a seamount under the water, like those almost like a mini volcano.
Okay.
With a thermal vent.
Yeah.
So it goes from 1,000 feet of water all the way up to 500 and then back to 1,000.
Wow.
And it's just
and it's a pretty substantial
so what's so cool about it is
distance?
It's almost like a little mountain peak.
Yeah.
So even though there's 500 feet of water between the top of the hump and the surface, there's still 500 feet of water.
Yeah.
It boils because the current is still so strong out there. And the tunas just love to hang out there. So this guy has, he said, I would love to go to the hump. I'd love to go to the hump. So I know right away that's where he wants to go. So I said, okay, let me check the weather. The weather looks good. So we're going to shoot out to the hump, 23 miles, fish for tuna. But the thing is, I know, okay, if we do that, great. But that's an hour or two.
Yeah.
I have to have the rest of the day planned. So in my head, I'm saying, okay, the mahi are starting to show up down there. We're going to head out probably in the dark. We're going to go super early to the hump. On the way back from the hump, we're going to refish, right? We're going to yellowtail fish. So, but on the way from the hump to the refishing, there's probably going to be some mahi. So now I said, kind of tailored a plan for him. I said, why don't we do this? Why don't we hit the hump in the morning? In a perfect world, we hit the hump, we get a bunch of tuna. On the 30-mile run to the yellowtail spot, we'll spend a few hours, we'll go for some dolphin, and then get some yellowtail. Now we're doing 3 different things. I'm hedging my bet a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get to the hump, usually you can tell with the birds and the fish work together. So a lot of the tunas will push up bait fish and the birds will come down and pick them out. So when the birds are working on the water.
So the tuna are there.
Tuna are there. And you don't really know what's going on until you get there. So you take a 20.
So now you got a camera out there. Be like, hey, let me check the footage real quick.
So you take a 23-mile trip out and all of a sudden there's going to be 1 million birds or there could be nothing. So you always have to have a backup plan. And I've learned, just keep working, keep doing different things. If you work hard enough, you're most likely going to put at least a fish on the boat.
Yeah.
So.
And when you have a chart, when someone charters you and stuff like that, and it's more of a longer ride out to wherever you're going on the spot, do you also keep in mind it's like, okay, these guys seem like they could be ones who like to party. All of a sudden, we're going out there. It's going to be an hour. That's an hour worth of them just getting fucking shit faced, and it's like I don't want to kind of have to deal with
so
that.
That's very good questions. So surprisingly, people don't drink.
Okay,
it's crazy. We would,
and that's nothing you ever
think
mentioned,
that,
right?
Yeah. No, I mean, if I look back at the 1,500 charters I've done, I've never had someone get. One guy in Miami who was like a Russian guy. One guy was like
oligarch,
right,
just on a yacht,
a vodka bottle of money. One guy. Everybody else, they have a beer, maybe a beer or two. I've never had that problem.
Okay, well,
that's a good question though.
No, that's
you would
good.
think like a large percentage or like getting hammered and belligerent. No, it's okay.
I guess because when they call you, they have a different goal in mind. I mean, you could just go out on the boat and get wasted throwing a fishing rod, throwing a line in the water. But they want an expert. They want someone who's going to actually help them accomplish that goal of catching the fish that they're looking for.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. I would have thought, a lot of people would be trying to party, but then the more I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? They're not going to do that. And you say you prefer, or it's more rewarding, I guess, for lack of a better word, is when it's families, because you want that situation. You want that 8-year-old, you want that 12-year-old who you were at a certain time in your life. Be like, holy crap, this is one of the coolest experiences ever.
When I first started this, it was ego. It was, let me jump on Instagram. Let me show how awesome I am. Let me catch 50 dolphin, this and that. And over the years, I think I've become like, at least by some people, respected. By some people, not.
Well, it's still the salty people. It's still the salty people. We're talking about those people that we want to throw overboard anyway.
I feel like, I've done this for over 10 years. I don't have anything to prove anymore. I feel that. That's a wonderful feeling. I did have something to prove. You want to be successful at what you do. I really feel now it's really providing service. I really want that family to be like, that was awesome. And it's not always just catching fish. If I catch a bunch of fish and I'm yelling at your kids all day, it's not fun. You know what I'm saying? I like kidding around with the kids. And like I said, when I get that big fish and I see that 8-year-old's face, I just I feel like I'm passing the passion on to something. It's a great feeling. Where I wasn't like that when I first started. I was very involved. And the internet world, it's so much fun. I'm sure you've seen my Instagram page.
Oh yeah.
So with the Instagram page, because I have a marketing background, we talked about mortgages and other stuff. When I came onto the scene, I looked at the whole playing field and I said, what's not being done here? Because the world just doesn't need another fisherman. And I realized that people are really fucking serious about this shit, and it's not cool. This is not war. This is not fishing wars. I mean, I've seen fights on the water. I'm sure you all saw that Brock thing that was.
Oh my goodness, and that poor guy, the other guy who shared a name with him. Did you see that one captain that shared his name? It wasn't him.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
And he was getting so much hate. He's like, I'm not that guy. I'm not that dickhead. And it sucked. I reached out to him because I was like, hey, if you want to be on the podcast to clear things up, please let me know. I would love to help because to be associated with that douche. But it comes back to nobody actually fucking does the research. You can't just find someone who has the same name and just rip into them. It's like, make sure it's the right guy before you put all that hate out there. Right.
So, I mean, I have many situations. I had a situation last week that I'm not going to touch on because it's too much drama.
Okay.
But I have a lot of situations where you have these captains that are these angry, salty guys. They're on their tower. And there'll be a public wreck. A public wreck is a wreck that everybody knows about. We all know how to drift properly and how to stay away from each other. But the wrecks are very small, so we all kind of take turns coming across them in that area. And you get these guys that just start screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs, cursing, and they don't see their customers on the bottom. And I do. I can see them on the tower, and I can see their customers on the bottom. And the customers are just terrified. It's like crazy. But the Instagram thing has made it so easy for anybody to talk shit. I call them keyboard warriors.
I used to be telephone tough guys back in the day before the internet.
They will tell you if I go onto Instagram and read the comments, I might as well blow my fucking brains out.
Yep.
Because I am the biggest loser, the biggest Guggen. It's so, with social media dividing, the politically dividing everybody and making everybody pick teams. And it's just, even recently, even after the election, I noticed that the comments have been vicious, and it's just, it's a toxic, I've been staying off it more and more. Yeah. It's a toxic place.
You drive yourself nuts.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And what I do like to do on my page is be provocative. You know, if you go back to my page, it is not a fishing page. It is a extension of my personality. And I think that was a winner for me because like I did have a marketing background. And for those of you that are listening that have fishing pages on Instagram, I'll tell you why I have a little more success, I believe, because I'll put up something that I feel will go viral. It could be something funny. Yeah. Something I think is funny.
You're very funny.
And then it will get 6 million views of people that will never, ever look at a fishing page, but they looked at this funny thing. And of those 6 million views, guess what? A small percentage of them are fishermen. And it wasn't about fishing. Yeah. And then you get business from that. So there's a different scenario. Also, lately, Instagram has changed their whole business model, which has been frustrating for everybody. It no longer matters how many followers you have. Yeah. Which is a bummer.
No, it is a bummer. The only thing that I'm not too bummed about that just personally is because I just started our Under Pressure social media page. Right, okay. I'm trying to do that content creation. Between this, to juggle this, and the podcast, it's been tough because I'm not, for all intents and purposes, a content creator. I'm learning that on the fly. Right. And it's something like I'll look at your page and it's like, that's why I try to put as much variety as possible. That's why the show's designed that way, to have all walks of life, because something for everyone. Yeah, like Kenny, who owns the Twisted Tuna and he helps me with this podcast, their menu is incredible. It's got a little bit of everything. So if you bring whoever you bring with you, there's a good chance you're going to find something they want to eat.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Also, like for those that are trying to figure out Instagram, recently they push everything towards people that aren't following you. That's what they're trying to do. So if you want to reach more people, try to target people that aren't following you. Yeah. You know, not. Do
you try to use that trial thing, the trial option they have on Instagram? Like it'll be like, all right, see if this will actually work. Do you ever do that?
I'm very resentful towards Instagram because I spent so many years building followers.
What you have.
Right. And then there's a whole gray area there because it's like, okay, people are going to say, you know, you're using their service so they can do what they want. I get that concept. But when it was first pitched to me 10 years ago, Instagram, it was, hey, get followers, and then you could make these connections. I would get so much business, you know, and if I had 1,000 followers and I put up a picture, 1,000 people would see it. Yeah. If that happened to me today, I would be overbooked for the rest of my life. So Mark Zuckerberg is controlling my life.
He is
like Mark Zuckerberg.
Give it a break, bro.
Like I'm relying on Mark Zuckerberg to see if I can like pay my rent. You know, it's insane. So it's really that's a whole other the whole social media thing is another world.
So do you have a favorite type of fish? Like, do you love going out for that fish when someone's like, hey, I want to catch this fish?
People are going to think I'm crazy. Yes. Yeah, I do have a certain type of fishing that I love.
People are going to think you're crazy? Yeah, you're kind of telling me that they're hating on you for no reason anyway. Don't worry about that, Jeff. You're
personal, like eating-wise, I mean, we all like, I love swordfish, I love tuna.
And you still eat fish because you said you're on a carnivore diet. So fish
as long
is allowed?
It's an animal. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I might be jumping on that train.
But my personal favorite thing to do is to go Spanish mackerel fishing in Florida Bay in the winter. It's just, I just like it. So for several reasons. By the way, the questions are great. The questions you're asking me are great.
Thank you so much.
It's in the bay. So as long as there's not a north wind, it's protected. So that means if it's 5-6 foot seas offshore, it's like a lake in the bay. It's only 12 miles from shore and it's calm waters usually. You anchor up in 12 feet of water. And if they're there, and the customers love this too. If they're there, you just take literally a foam floater, a leader, and there's several different ways to do the hooks, whether with wire or with mono. And you just float back these cut bait or live bait. And in the winter, these Spanish mackerel are 5-7 pounds, huge. They're a fun fight. Customers have a great time. It's easy for me. It's fun. It's something I don't know. I just enjoy it. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people will think I'm crazy for saying that, but for me, it's personally enjoyable. And then I'll get into. I mean, mahi are the stupidest fish in the world. So that's like. I like saying, if tunas were smart, you know, like tunas are pure predators. Tunas, they're dark on the top because if a fish is looking down, they can't see them, and they're light on the bottom. So if a fish is looking up into the light, they can't see them. They're a predator. They're real smart. They don't come near.
They're fast too.
They're fast, you know. But mahi are just so stupid. But they're such an important fishery for us. First of all, I don't know any fish that will swim up to the boat with motors on with your motors on. So your motors are on under the water. That's loud, right? And they just come up and they're like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Do you have any food? Which is like crazy.
So they are the short bus fish of the sea.
They're the short, absolutely. They only live for 4 years. They usually die of starvation. They eat everything in the ocean. The females lay 30.
They usually die of starvation? That's probably because they get lost.
Eat. All they do is go, and they'll go 2,000 feet of water. In the winter, they'll come into 30 feet on the reef. They are just garbage cans. And the females, I think, lay 30 or 40,000 eggs a day. So it's a great fishery in the sense that you can't hurt them. You know, there's so many of them. But it's amazing to me how
like humans, the dumbest ones seem to just keep populating the earth.
You're absolutely right.
I'm just going to call an idiot a mahi from now on. Thanks, Jeff. I'll be like, oh, look at that mahi over there.
So, yeah, so they're dumb fish.
Yeah, and is there ever one charter out there that was just so rewarding? One that just comes to mind that you would just love to share with me? Like one of those ones that was like, wow.
I can give you the best and the worst. Want to go both ways?
Yeah, I would love to go both ways.
Okay, so
which clipped out of context. That's going to be fun.
All right, so he goes both ways. All right, so the best one, I mean, there's been so many good ones, but one I'll never forget is father, son. This kid was so cute. This kid was like, there was something, he had a great personality, 8 years old. Father's like classic American dad, you know, looked like a Ken doll. And they had like a 25 bay boat, and that's a little tough for me to work on, but we went out, we caught like huge amberjacks, big muttons. It was a great day, but on the way back, the father put his arm around me. He goes, Jeff, listen, I really want to thank you. This has been like the most like amazing experience for me and my son. And like that was like,
that's cool.
I'll never forget that.
And it could be tough for a lot of, unfortunately, I don't have a relationship with my dad anymore. You know, we bumped heads far too often. He said a couple things that if it was someone else who said it, it'd be a whole different situation. Like they would not probably be here anymore. And it was just it's unfortunate because I think of the time, my fondest memories of fishing, I told you I haven't fished in 18, 20 years, was him. We went to City Island, we'd go fish, or the ones when like everybody's on that boat, throw it in, reel it up as quick as you can. I think we were catching pierogies or something like Porgies. I think porgies. And you just, basically it was just a metal lure.
Is a Polish pastry.
Yeah. And that's funny. My girlfriend, we eat those. We eat those on Easter. We ate them last Easter. So I'm a mahi right now. So that's why I misspoke. But yeah, I love fishing. I would love to go out with you. So to have that bond when it's tough nowadays for people to bond with their kids. There's so many different things because the generational gap, like kids just want to stay at home. They want to play video games. It's like we grew up, we would go home until the lights came back on.
I get a lot of kids that come out that I can tell are just like social media'd out, like a 12-year-old with his phone that does not interact. I'll kid around, but I'll say, hey, listen, put your phone away.
Yeah.
You know, we're going.
You'd hope there's no service out there, honestly.
Yeah. So we'll go to the scariest story I ever had. I don't know why I took this gig. I got a call like 4 years ago.
So you knew you were probably in for something different.
Absolutely knew.
Because you said you interviewed people.
I needed the money. I needed the money. So I get a call. Crazy Southern drawl. Now I understand Southern drawl. I couldn't even understand what he was saying.
It's like when you watch those shows that are in English,
right?
But then they still have the subtitles.
Most Southern drawl, I was.
It's like Honey Boo Boo.
So I'm like, hello, and he's like, we're going to Jacksonville. We're doing this, that. I'm like, what? He goes, we're coming down from Jacksonville and we want to go fishing. But he said it where he could barely understand. I said, okay, do you have a boat? He said, yeah, we got a boat. So I'm like, okay. If you want to pull the boat to Matheson Hammock, I can take you guys fishing. I knew, I don't know what I was doing. I learned a lesson, right? So I got spooked after. I'm like, this doesn't sound right. You know. And, by the way, listeners, always go with your first instinct. It's 99% of the time right. So I said, you know what? Before we go, I want you to deposit $200 in my bank account. I never do that, right? I was trying to get out of this. No problem.
You're like, damn it. So, you know what? Make it another 200.
So he does this. So I'm like, fuck. So I get to Matheson Hammock. These guys pull up, African American. I'm not racist, but they're black guys. One guy had 3 teeth. These are like scary looking guys with this shitty boat. I'm like, oh my fucking God.
This is the day I die.
Right? So we start going out, and I guess these guys had never really been in deep water because Jacksonville is very shallow for a long time. So as we drop, we're going to go for dolphin. So as we drop off past 100 feet, they're like, oh, look how deep it is. Oh, cool. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable. And we get out to like 1,000 feet of water, and I put the trolling lines out, and they're in the water for about 2 minutes. And one of the guys goes, man, where's the fucking fish? I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like,
2 minutes in?
Cursing.
You're like, could I swim back to shore?
I'm like, oh, shit. So I'm like, we got to do this for a few minutes. We got to troll for a while. Sometimes we have to troll for an hour. He goes, man, I didn't pay no fucking money to catch no fucking... We're 2 minutes in. I'm like, holy shit. I'm fucking scared.
Yeah.
Okay. So after like 5 more minutes, he does the same thing. Man, where's the... Like angry. I'm like, okay, obviously we had a misunderstanding here. I said, if you'd like, we can go back towards shore and we could drift fish some of the wrecks. Yeah, I want to do that. So you can imagine the 20-minute ride from there to there. I'm like, oh, holy shit.
Just trying to figure out your next move. You're like, okay, if this happens, I got to do this.
We get out there. I'm spooked, right? And it's like a fucking miracle. My good friend, one of my good friends who has his boat in Ocean Reef, which is 15 miles south, I look out, he's right there. I'm like, hey, man, I'm right behind you in this boat with these 2 guys. Keep an eye on me. Just seriously, I'm in danger. Right? And I start fishing that way. I just switch up the strategy. We start drifting. 2 minutes later, where's the fuck? I'm like, holy. So I said, guys, listen. I said, we have a misunderstanding here. I said, I'm going to respectfully ask you guys to bring the boat back to the dock now. Okay? The guy goes, oh, no. I'm just kidding around, man. We're good. I'm like, am I kidnapped right now? I said, no, actually, I said, sir, we're not going to. He said, you don't have to pay me today. I said, don't worry about the money. But bring me back to the dock. And they did, thank God. That was scary.
Wow.
It was a scary moment, yeah.
Damn. That guy had no patience. I thought you said your buddy was going to help you. Next thing you know, the fish just started biting.
No. That was
Fuck the fish that day. To be a no-show on that day?
Life.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I'm glad you made it out of there alive because this has been fun, Jeff. This has been very, very fun, man. Yeah. So how can everybody get in contact with you? Put out your socials.
FloridaFishingMate.com is my website. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's Florida Fishing Mate. If you're a Democrat, you're not going to like the page, but it's okay. I rarely fish with Democrats. I don't think that Democrats are big boaters. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a crazy political person. I just like to have fun.
No, of course.
I appreciate you having me on the show.
No, thank you. I'd have you back anytime. And just Psycho Bunny is not a paid endorser of Under Pressure. I just noticed that. But if you'd like to be, you can contact me. But you can catch Under Pressure anywhere you consume podcasts. Just put that line in the podcast waters and we'll reel you in. But also check me out on social media. I'm trying to build a following like you have, my good sir. So you're an inspiration.
That for sure.
Well, thank you so much. And until next time.
Appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Jeff, that was cool. That was really cool.